Thinking about the obstacles you face navigating your professional careers with little children? COVID, have you all flustered and frustrated? Pause, think about it with intentional thought, and consider where we go from here. Stay tuned and listen to Iris Dillet Knowles, that special lady, on her perspective as how mommy succeeded with 3 little children in a man's world. Join our co-sponsors, Page Limited Investment Limited, and our friends at Islandese and D1 Development. Post your questions and subscribe, like, and follow as we go along, and we will be endeavor to answer all your questions that you have. We'll be right back.
Something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles.
Welcome to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles, powered by Dom Dev Enterprises, innovative solutions for modern challenges. What we think, we become. What we radiate, we attract. And what we imagine, we can achieve. So let's change the narrative 242. This evening, we have that very special guest, as I mentioned. Somebody who is no stranger to me. I know her all my life. She is the one and only who brought me here on the side. This is Iris Dillet Knowles. Welcome, Mommy.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. I had no choice there. You use that ace pouco, ace in the corner. You're always taking care of me. So we ain't got to worry about the rest of them. Them other three. But I know I straight. So.
Oh, good.
You have been over inundated, as I can tell, by a wealth of love on Facebook and on YouTube. And people are saying all kinds of things, and they're eager to hear about your journey. And for such a small person, a powerful, extensive resume in life that you have on the table, and people can read it in full. And that's only an extract of her life, people. That's not the whole thing, but space and time and whatever you will take care of the rest. So as we move forward, IDK, as I call you, would you be so kind as to give us a little background leading up to your marriage in a fast track mode? Because I know that could be 2 hours by itself. So just a little background.
Listen, before I start, this is Mother's Day.
Yeah, I can get to that.
Okay. And I would like to just pay a special tribute to my mom, and you'd see why. My mom was the glue for our family, and she was also the glue for the other 8 in her family and their families, whether they lived in the United States of America or in islands in the Bahamas. So she was the one that held everybody together. And by extension, other people also, not to mention the community of Chippingham. And I believe, so there was always somebody living in our house at that time. And I believe that was where I got my sense of community back in that day. So I just wanted to give a shout out to her to say how much I appreciate all that she has done in bringing up everybody in the Bahamas, more or less.
Yeah. And the homestead used to be the hurricane shelter of Chippingham.
Right.
We can add to that. So while you're on that, then let's just go here and add a comment from the Right Reverend Bishop himself, Leish Boyd, for all mothers out there.
This special day, we honor and thank you for the mothers and and mother figures in our lives. And we ask your blessing upon all women, that they might see their special gifts from you and seek to exercise those gifts to the best of their ability, to their own biological children and to all of the children who look up to them. Grant now your special grace to our women. We ask you to strengthen our mothers. We ask you to help us as a community to honor our mothers and to help them to be the best that they can be. When they are discouraged, lift them up. When they are tired, give them strength and energy. When they are in the valley, give them your grace. But continue to open your hand upon them, that in moments of celebration they would praise you, in moments of success they would honor you. And we ask all of this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Amen.
Amen, amen, amen.
Thank
Awesome.
you. You know, Bishop Boyd came from Chippingham, actually the extension of Chippingham. So he's a Chipmanite.
Yeah. So he's Chippinite and he's Chippinite. But isn't it true that they say all pretty women came from Chippingham?
Of course.
There you go. So give us a little bit of that background up until marriage, not beyond the marriage, but just up until marriage, so people could have an understanding of who you are. And yeah. Fast track.
Oh boy. I went to government school, Quarry Mission, Western Junior, Western Senior, and Government High. And I graduated from Government High, and I think it was 54 with my Cambridge Senior
Government High.
Yeah. At the time that I graduated from Government High, Happy, they, you know, women really didn't have too much position in the business world. So, for example, when we were in grade 5, they passed out application forms, government application forms, and you would complete the form, and then before you quit school, they would just tell you, report to the import control or the wherever at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning and the date that you were supposed to do. So you didn't have any say in where they were positioning you. But I never completed the form because from the age of 8, I had studied piano with Mita Cumberbatch. And so I always thought that I was going to be a musician. Unfortunately, when I was accepted at London School of Music, the Royal Academy of Music in London, I allowed a certain young man to come along and convince me that I shouldn't go off to school, that I should get married. And we did.
Cool.
So I then started working, and I actually was at Two Goods at the time that I was accepted at the Royal Academy, and I then got married. So I don't know, where do you go from there?
All right. So what are some of the things that you like to do? Because the friends out there, they wanted to, they were impressed. I don't know why they were impressed, because they just look at me, then they should know that you had to be super special.
Some of the things that I like to do. Well, I guess, you know, I'm really a service-oriented person. And so I was one of the people who started the MRS club when we got married, because we didn't know the first thing about taking care of babies. So we formed the MRS club, and we used to help each other.
Right. Yeah, we're going to get to that. Yeah.
Okay. And Well, I guess apart from liking to play the piano, I
Basketball?
also like to go to the beach and to play around in the water. As a Girl Guide, I guess I used to swim. In high school, I played basketball, and then I was asked to play. They didn't allow me to join, but I played basketball with the pedal pushers, Edith Quest and that group, right? So and then later on, I got involved with tennis, but I never really played any games as such. I just went on the tennis court to exercise.
Yeah. And so you like to sew and do all those kind of things, bake cakes and all like that.
Bake. You know, like once I got I was too involved in business to get too involved in the kitchen. But once I got started running the guest house and the people were asking for food, then I had to buckle down and get in the kitchen and start cooking.
Right. All right. But that doesn't mean you can't cook, because and I be there every day to eat. So I know you could cook. So we ain't playing that. So
it's amazing the things that rub off you when you stay in the kitchen with your ma.
Yeah. Yep. And I know about running behind them chicken with no head. So right out the gate, of you getting swept off your feet by this debonair fella who considered himself to be the sheriff, you put out what I believe to be the first grandson of Daddy Dan Knowles, who would be carrying his name.
Yeah,
of all the children.
That's the problem.
And if I remember right, not that I was there at the time, but from hearing the stories, that created a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And so when we look at you in the professional arena, and that right out the gate, you were faced with pressure as to how to navigate.
Well, the pressure really came along because I didn't name him Daniel. I named him Dillon after Dillet. So when a year later, and I had my second child, she was a girl, so I named her Danielle, and that kind of saved grace. Because Danielle would have been the female counterpart of Daniel. Right,
and she was his queen.
Yeah.
I think of all the children he had, he only had one girl, as far as I could remember or know of. So then we followed closely. You took a breath, and the special one popped out.
Yep.
That's me, by the way, people. And so after all this rapid fire of children, then what was that a part of your plan to have all these children so early in your marriage and in your career?
No, of course not happy. And like the birth control pill wasn't around at that time. It didn't come along until I think it was you. So, that's how come I had these 3 babies in a row. I think it was a year between Dillon and Danielle, and then 2 years between you and Danielle.
Yeah, that's the breath. Yeah.
Okay. And when I had Danielle, I was working for E.D. Sassoon. And I think that was...
what you did there?
I operated the NCR accounting machine.
Okay, so that took a lot of your time.
Oh, yeah. And then they came along, the computer came along, and I had to resign because, again, the woman exercise. I had to resign when I left to deliver Danielle. So, and I didn't go back, even though they wanted me to come back. They had me submit my letter of application at the same time that I submitted my resignation, because they said they wanted me to come back. But the way that things were, they couldn't just have me come back, so I had to apply all over again. So when I left to deliver Danielle, I knew that I was welcome to come back to ED Sassoon. However, the sheriff decided that I now had 2 children, so I wasn't going back to work.
So that experience in itself, dealing with the sheriff and the grandfather, Papa Dan, must have been a significant contrast compared to the mild-mannered, unassuming, planning, the systematic AD Popop Dillet.
But the mild-mannered Popop Dillet, even though he was a giant of a guy, he was very mild-mannered and he was very quiet. But he also told me and Setella, always told me and Setella that nobody was better than us. We weren't any better than anybody else. And that everybody was in their own right to be their own person. And so we needed to learn to be comfortable in our own skin. And that went a long way in helping us, well, helping me in particular, to be able to deal with everything that anybody threw at me. Because I knew that I was my own person. And so I had respect for everybody. And I expected them to have respect for me. And I didn't allow them to upset me in any which way.
Awesome. And so now here you have 3 little children, and you on somewhat of a fast track, haven't gone to the government high school, sacrifice your elite piano career for me. I don't know about the rest of them think that way, but I think it that way, that you sacrifice all of them for me. So tell us a little bit about that career that you would have gone on from there.
After you were born, Happy, my marriage fell apart. And so I took off, I left. You know, they say it takes a village to bring up a child. So I had my parents, my sister and her husband, my in-laws, all the Chippingham community, and all of my mother's friends stepped in to take care of you all. I took off and I went to New York for a couple of months to try get my act together. While I was over there, I was convinced to go to attend New York Business School of Business, because I had learned how to type and to take shorthand, and I had worked as Mr. Toogood's secretary and all the rest of it, but I didn't have any certificate. And at that time in the Bahamas, they were looking for certificates for you to be able to move on. So I attended New York School of Business and I got my Secretarial Diploma. That would have been in 1965. And when I came back, I decided that I would go to work for Manpower, which was a company that sent people out to fill in when a secretary went on vacation or whatever. And so they sent me a couple of places that I didn't really care for. And then I ended up for them working for Jack Gaffney, who was the managing director of Trust Corporation of Bahamas Limited. And during that time, they formed Roy West Banking Corporation, which was an amalgamation of Royal Bank of Canada and Westminster Bank.
Okay.
So Mr. Gaffney asked me, you know, since I had already done all of the typing and I knew everything about Roy West, would I leave Manpower and consider becoming the managing director's secretary for Roy West? And so that was what I did. So we moved over into Outer Trust Corporation into Norfolk House next door,
Okay.
and right on Frederick Street.
Mm-hmm.
Roy West told me that I had gone as far as I could go, even though I had gone in there as the managing director's secretary, and they hired everybody else after me.
Mm-hmm.
They said that I had gone as far as I could go, and then they discontinued increasing my salary.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody knew that I was looking for a job.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very fortunate in that I guess I've always had jobs offered to me. I never had to actually apply for a job. And so I got a call from Burma Oil saying that they were looking for somebody to be the administrative assistant for the managing director.
Mm-hmm.
They were in the construction stage, and the terminal was being built. It's now called, I guess, Statoil, or now it's also Equinor now.
Equinor. Mm-hmm.
Equinor, yeah. But it was Burma when I went. Well, actually, wasn't even Burma Oil Bahamas. It was still Burma Oil Company, the British company.
Okay.
That hired me. And so I went there. But on reflection, it seems to me like I must have always been an entrepreneur, because I seem to have always been interested in joining companies that were new in the Bahamas and starting up. Because that Roy West and now Burma Oil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you being nice or calm on like what you normally are. These places that you went, you might have said that you were these executive secretaries and the like, but you didn't really just do that. They called on you to do way more than that, and particularly at Burma Oil. Because the managing director was a retiree. So
yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Well, when I went to work for Burma, it really was only the two of us, just the two of us. Mm-hmm. So I literally did everything, including renting the space under the office was at Bahamas Development Corporation. And so we rented the space underneath the Development Corporation on Collins Avenue,
mm-hmm.
Where J.S. Johnson used to be. And so I had to fix up the office and deal with all of the basic information for when people started coming to work. And I would interview some of the people who would have been coming. Well, I'm ahead of myself, because I didn't interview people until we started the training program.
Okay.
Because of the nature of the company, 90% of the employees came from the UK. Okay. And so we had the Prime Minister, Sir Lyndon Pinling, had gotten in touch with Dawood Archer, who had headed up a refinery for Exxon in Singapore, a Bahamian,
mm-hmm.
and asked him if he would consider coming back to the Bahamas to head up Burma Oil in Grand Bahama. So he was delighted, of course, because he had been gone since he was 16 years old. Mm-hmm. And he had never been able to come back to the Bahamas, even though he was an engineer, because he was black. Well, light-skinned, black.
Mm-hmm.
And he was never able to get a job in Nassau. So he came along after me. But before me, when Burma was sending out the contractors to build a terminal, they needed somebody to handle the immigration affairs. And so B.O.E. Tynes, who was a retired in charge of immigration department, they hired him. and his daughter to type whatever stuff he needed to be typed. So it was just the three of us initially.
Right.
So we did, between the three of us, we did whatever needed to be done. Well, they handled Grand Bahama and I handled Nassau.
And this was about 73, right?
Pardon me?
Around 73.
1973, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so then after Derwood came, and then Burma sent out Captain Moncrief, who would be now in charge of the Marine Department. So Derwood would have been in charge of the terminal overall, and Captain Moncrief was in charge of the Marine Department. And so the two of them went off to Burma in England, and they hired all of the staff. So we quickly recognized that this terminal belonged to Bahamas government.
Mm-hmm.
And it really wasn't right for 90% of the staff to be foreign. So Derwood, McFarlane, and I put our heads together and we came up with a training program where we thought that we could train Bahamians who would eventually take over, I say, as I call it, Bahamianize the operations department.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We didn't realize that it was going to be so difficult because, you know, our educational system was very limited. And we hadn't gone independent yet at that time. So it was really like pulling teeth, trying to find Bahamians who would qualified, you know?
Yeah, and so in all this time now, you here with these three little children, and if we were to backtrack a little bit, you would now have been immersed into the man's world, as I call it, having been divorced. But tell us a little bit about that incident
my divorce took a long time, Happy. You know, back then you didn't get a divorce right quick.
Well, I was going to ask because, I mean, I remember the separation.
7 years to get my divorce.
Right. So I would have been young, and then you the first time, then we went around 7 and then 10, etc. when the real separation happened. But tell us, how did you manage?
We were separated from you were born.
Right. That's what I say. And around 10 is when you got the divorce itself. So, but anyway, the more important part of that is how did that impact, or how did you navigate around all of that turmoil and do all of those things you just mentioned in your professional career? What were the driving forces for that? What kept you stable?
Well, I knew that I had these 3 children to take care of, and I had to be working to be able to have the financial resources to take care of you. And so I had to put my all into performing on the job. And so, you know, this is what I was saying, you know, it takes a village to bring up the children and a child, and all my parents and my sister and her husband and everybody else just stepped in and helped out.
Yeah. So in doing that, a lot of people today, when I talk with them, they seem to say, oh, well, you know, I'm going for the money. I just can break off running. And they might have children, but they don't really mother the children because they're out trying to get the dollar to bring in to feed them and etc., especially the ones who are single. So how would you define mothering or motherhood?
Well, you know, the children didn't ask to come into this world. You actually delivered them into the world. So you're responsible for those children. Okay. So, you know, I know that there are a lot of mothers who bring children into the world and then all they did was, as they say, born them, and then they ignore them. And that's, I believe, why we have so much crime in the world today, because these children had to bring themselves up on the road, out on the streets. But I hadn't been brought up that way, as I explained earlier, and I had a commitment to my children to make sure that they were brought up in proper manner. Now, you know, I had been brought up with a very strong religious background in the Anglican Church. As a matter of fact, Daddy had built the church in Chippingham, and I was the first baby christened. So, you know, every time the bell licked, we were in church. And Holy Spirit was the mission of St. Mary's. So we had to not only go to Holy Spirit, we also had to go to St. Mary's. Right. So we were quite indoctrinated into our faith. And by extension, I expanded that to y'all. So y'all were brought up in the faith as well.
Right.
And I used to play the organ down at Holy Spirit. But because I had these 3 little babies, once Father Pestina formed a Holy Cross up in Soldier Road, where we lived, it really wasn't too convenient to be going down to Holy Spirit all the time. So we then started going to Holy Cross. But anyway, what were you asking?
Okay, so now we have that situation, and so you have these 3 little children and the like, and but my first experience, or real memorable experience of you as mommy, on a significant level, because the people to tell you, I had 5 mothers, right? The one I'm speaking to now, her sister Setella Cox, who believes I was her child. Winnie the Pooh, Winifred Murray, which was the other one, your right-hand man, your Robin, across the street, who would make sure everything was in order. And then I had Miss Jenkins in Miami when I went to school. And then when I got married before my mother-in-law, who treats me as a son. And so I had all these people that take care of me. I don't know if my other siblings had the same support as I did. But when we look at all of that, you did your MBA whilst they were in school and I was at home. And that was about high school time. And I saw the sacrifice that you did to do your MBA on a Saturday after working so hard during the week. And whenever there was a need that I had, you were always there. And I always just wonder, how were you able to do that? Because you seem to be like Wonder Woman and Aquaman and everybody else put together.
Plus, you didn't mention that I was always having to get on a plane and go somewhere for Burma.
No, that's good.
Apart from the weekly visits to Grand Bahama, to Freeport, to the eastern end of Grand Bahama, I was on a plane going to the New York office and a plane going over to London for management meetings. And I'd go down to Curacao where the ships were on dry dock. So, you know, and Olga Dillet used to just, if y'all couldn't go down to her, then she would come up to my house. Right. So that she'd be able to take you all to school and bring you back and take care of you.
So it's vitally important for mothers to network and have collaboration in the process, and you can't just do it all.
No, it's impossible to do it all on your own and pay attention and have the children be brought up in the proper fashion. And the fashion that I would have wanted them to be brought up, you know. But I always involved you all in any activities that I had.
Right.
So, you all were always very important to me. And I was always involved in any of your activities.
Yes.
I distinctly remember a young man walking up to me one day and saying, "Oh, point his finger at me. I know you," he said. "Do you remember how you used to put your lawnmower in the back of your car and you and your friend would drive up to the school where your sons and I were playing baseball,
Yes.
and
C.I.
you all
Gibson.
were on the grass?"
Yeah.
And I
Pick
said,
up all of those rocks.
"Yep,
Yeah. Y'all made a wall out of all those rocks. Yeah.
yeah." So, y'all were involved in my activities, and I was involved in your activities. So that while I was your mother, to a certain extent, I was a friend of yours.
Right.
And, I always looked for your strength and played on the strengths that you guys had. And I'd always encourage you in your strong points.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have conversations. The conversations obviously were geared to whatever age y'all were at. Fortunately, you all were all at the same age, more or less, moving along.
Mm-hmm. Older than we were. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, I would listen to you all, and I wouldn't try to downplay whatever it is that y'all was saying to me. And I guess by extension, I do that now to my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
They come and they talk to me, and I listen to them. And they realize, and all of y'all realize, that I respected you. And so by doing that, I was able to ingrain a respect for y'all to have for other people, and for y'all to be able to listen to other people and have respect for their point of view.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's that kind of way,
Yeah. And
it was just natural for me,
yeah.
because
Well,
that was how mommy brought me up.
Yeah.
And
So
I passed it on to you guys.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up onto the break now, and so we witnessed that in full living color, because before the show, as we were waiting for the show, you had a session with about 3 or 4 youths, which ran on for almost an hour. And I was wondering if they were going to tire you out before time for the show. And I was like, if I could reach over there through the camera and grab them and shake them and tell them calm out. But they were asking you so many questions, and so intrigued by you as a person, I guess the energy that you put off. But not just us, the children, or the people who work with you and the like, who benefit from the aura that you have and your generosity and the like. But there's a friend of yours who have something to say, which I know this organization is significant to you. And maybe you could comment after hearing what she has to say, and then we'll go to the break.
Okay.
2 years. Happy Mother's Day. I had a blast. Sure hope you did. Love ya.
Robbie.
Yes. And so she is from the MRS group.
Yes, ladies.
Sorry?
One of my MRS group.
Yes. Could you help the people understand what that means? Why did you all form a MRS, and what? That's 60-something years now.
Because, all of us got married around about the same time and started having babies, and none of us knew anything about how to take care of a baby, and we recognized that. And so we thought that we would get together and we would share whatever information we have as we bring up these children. So, you had all of the MRS ladies helping to bring you up happy.
Yeah. That's why I say I get plenty moms. Yeah, and they would have been a pillar of strength for you going through that time. When we talk about the divorce was a time when divorce was not normal when you got divorced.
Yeah. Right.
And for a lady to initiate the divorce made it even worse. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. That's a different story.
Yeah, that's a book by itself. So,
Yeah.
and then the church had its challenges with it a little bit. So we will go, you've been listening to Dale Happy Knowles with something to think about. My mom, Iris Dillet Knowles, has been our special honored guest here on this Mother's Day week. And we will be right back after this messages.
I hoop with the best of them, swooped up the chest of them, dunked on a bunch, caught alley-oops on the rest of them. I got the lean on the J now, it really don't matter if we play in arenas or playgrounds. Throw it around the back so it look fly when I pass, just to avoid the block, go high off the glass. I'm killing them out there, they gon' have to bring caskets, that's all I hear after the baskets. But I ain't even warm up, and still pull from where it counts for 3 points and lead the form up. You must be insane if you give me the lane or perimeter. The crossover, sprain every limb on y'all. Never woulda, ever coulda. Thought I could come off the baseline and jump over 7-footers. Who gon' stop me when I'm in a lane? I come to entertain, you know it's in the game. But who gon' stop me? Gonna get 5. I D up with 5, you know we get live.
Welcome back to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. As we were talking with my mom before the break on a number of things that show that how she was able to navigate her professional career with 3 little children tagging along and become successful. And we talked a little bit about her professional career. We talked a little bit about her background and the like. And now we will touch a little bit on her civic and social background, which she mentioned earlier with her mom being the pillar and the glue that stemmed from New York and around the world all the way back in the Bahamas and keeping everybody together. And I tell them, I remember the crab, when people always talk about black crab, I'd say all crab in the baskets do the same thing. So I know about all of those things in the yard in Chippingham. And so a little bit before we get onto some more of the speeches is that you were involved or significantly involved and still somewhat involved with a number of organizations, the Bahamas Girl Guides Association, Zonta, the Chippingham Development Group, and then your study group, etc. So give us a little background on some of that.
Well, you know about the MRS Club.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then there was the Zonta Club. I became a charter member. And that was basically a club that dealt with the status of women, an international organization that dealt with the status of women. And it was also a service-oriented club. I resigned from Zonta actually when I started the guest house after I had left Burma. And there was the Professional Secretaries Association that we started when I was at Roy West, because we recognized that we needed to raise the level of the status of secretaries to a professional level, not only in terms of our ability, but also to be viewed as professional, back then. And this, we're talking about 65, 66, when we started the Professional Association, Secretaries Association. Secretaries weren't viewed on too much. And let's see. Then Zonta, when Dr. Perry Gomez was put in charge of the HIV program, he came to Zonta and he said that would we form a foundation that would handle the money, because he was going to do his people would be doing the hands-on, and they would be leading the general public to pay for a lot of the things that they were doing. So he didn't want to be handling the money. So he asked Zonta if they would form a foundation, and that's how the AIDS Foundation was formed.
Right.
And then, of course, we did a whole lot of stuff, not only through Zonta, but through the AIDS Foundation. And in particular, I was very, very pleased that we were able to fund the ACT program for government, which was where we paid for the ACT medication that was given to pregnant women who had HIV, so that they were able to pass it on down to their babies. And then, of course, like everything, government took it over.
Right. Well, as you can see on the screen, that we have a good amount of love being shared towards you. Annette Poitier says, a most impressive resume. Your children rise up and honor you. Praise God. Have a wonderful and happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, Annette.
Yes, and the bishop spoke about honoring in his prayer. And Linda, your daughter, Linda Evans, she highlights there that happy you now see why yourself was chosen to be my baby girl's godmother. Both strive for excellence. Love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.
Thanks.
So, as we talk about this honoring now, there are a wealth of people who want to honor you, right? And we have a few of them who are standing by. And so we'll add them in terms of your first pain, and then your second pain, and then we'll come to some of the other ones as we go forward. And so welcome to the show, Dillon Knowles and Danielle Knowles, my people's them.
Hi there.
Cool.
Afternoon all.
Hello.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Thank you.
Much love sent to you from the northern Bahamas. I know you don't see us as often as you would like, but know that you're always in our hearts and on our minds.
Thank you. You're always in mind too, Dillon. You know, we stay in touch on, what's up? That's become the COVID means of communication, right?
Yeah, I was just telling Denzel yesterday that when I was in college, you used to complain that I never called home enough, but
Exactly.
you know, we used to have to make long distance calls to call home. But when he was in college, he had WhatsApp and he still never called home. So I guess this thing has rolled downhill.
Well, he sort of takes after you in terms of not saying that. So Daniel is back. What you say, Daniel?
Hi there. Had a technical difficulty, that's all. Hi, everybody. Mummy, congratulations. You're always such a trooper. Love you dearly. Still trying to fill those shoes, boy, but I tell you.
Daniel, you can't fill those shoes. Give up.
I'll keep
Don't
going.
even try. Save your energy.
I'll
You
keep
know,
going.
one of the things that has not been said yet is that Mommy spent a lifetime trying to ensure that her children grew up independent, respectful, considerate, and principled. Independence was not something that was the watchword in the community of the Bahamas when we were growing up. Most children were raised to be subservient to their parents and to the adults around them. Whereas we were actually brought up quite the opposite, in that you made sure that we got exposed to as much as we could get exposed to, sending me in particular to summer camps around the world as a teenager to ensure that I saw what was going on in the world and learned from it, including us, as you said earlier, in activities that you engaged in. And, it wasn't the typical home where when adults show up, you had to go to your room. It was when adults showed up, you pull up the chair and joined in the conversation. And you learned and you were taught to think independently and think through things. I mean, I distinctly remember other cousins of mine who wondered why it was that I could go to football practice at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday when they were home doing chores. Not that I didn't have chores to do, but you taught us that we had to figure out how to prioritize things, organize things, so that we got the things that we want to get done, as well as the things that we were obligated to get done. So at the end of the day, that resulted in, I guess, 3 reasonably successful kids who are growing their own families. Well, at least 2 of us are growing our own families.
I'm so pleased to hear you say all of this, Dillon, because that was exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, I know, and
except for he used to delegate all of the work to me.
Yeah, listen, man, that means that I learned well.
We just lost.
I learned very well, and we all appreciate the fact that we were made to be independent, but also principled. One of the things that everybody could talk about your resume today, but when you were
Danielle, are you there?
When you were developing that resume, nobody knew you. And that was because you were not the kind of person to sell your soul to the devil for personal gain. And as a result of that, you work behind the scenes, making things happen and getting things done with no reward and no recognition for it. And I think that's somewhat of a curse that the rest of us gain from you as well, because we're all out there doing what we have to do to make the world a better place, to make the Bahamas a better place. And we're kind of under the radar in most cases, and people really don't know what is going on with us and what we're involved with and what we're accomplishing. But those who we touch know. And I thank you for instilling that in us as we grew up.
Well, I hope she got that, because somewhere on the line, she dropped out. And so hopefully she will be able to come back in or is able to see. So Daniel, I don't know if you can see her, but I don't see her. Oh, yes, you're back. Yes, I see she's back. She's back. She's back. She's back. Yes, I could see you loud and clear and visible as usual.
You can see loud and clear.
Yes. Danny, you have anything you want to add to Dillon's essay?
Just that Mommy is such a trooper, and she's done so well as a person and just being herself, as she said earlier with Popop saying to her and Auntie to just be as comfortable in your own skin. but you know, she's strived and done so well in her career, as well as with the parallel of raising her children. And you know, I consider mommy to be an angel, really, to us and to everybody who she touches in her own very quiet, elegant way. And I salute you, mommy, and I love you dearly. And just keep enjoying life now. Try to relax and enjoy life, and don't try to fix everybody.
You know she can't do that. That ain't her nature.
Yes. All right. So it's good hearing from you all, and Dillon, give our love to Sonia. I know she wanted to be with us today, but the plantation took her away, and so hopefully you will get her off the plantation soon, so she could have been here.
Yeah, no, you can't get her off the plantation. If you give her spare time, she just spend it with the kids doing something or the other. She just like mommy.
She just like mommy.
Yeah, that's why you marry her. So the next time, we appreciate you all taking the time to come on the show and spend a little bit of time with your mother, mommy, ID / Rusty, whatever names you want to use.
That's the other thing people don't realize is that we all refer to her by her initials. And at no point in time in life was that ever considered to be disrespectful, because it's always done in love. That tends to be a challenge for a lot of kids these days, because they can't relate to their parents or other adults in that way. It always has to be this very formal way of addressing people, and that I don't find that to be very productive in growing children into the kinds of adults that we want them to grow into. So again, hats off. Thank you.
Yeah,
but you know, that's how you all ended up calling that my father Popop, because he used to tell you all, call him Eddie.
Yeah.
And Mama used to say, no man, they can't call you Eddie, you're your grandpa. And so we all started calling him Popop.
Good.
Yeah, but we used to call her Olga D. So
yeah, well, she used to control
you know,
it.
like how, we call the Fords Daddy Jack and Mommy Ford.
Yeah.
And all of our friends called Mommy Dillet and Daddy Eddie.
Yeah.
So, you know.
All right. Well, good for your guest appearance.
See you guys.
Okay. Y'all take care. Have a good night.
You too. Good to see you. Oh, Frederick Howard.
Yes.
The Fords from Chippingham.
Yeah, they're right on time. That's
yeah, I just talked about them. Just talked about Freddie's grandparents.
All right. And so now, as we move forward, then we see, like we talk about the honoring the real children, because you know they always say your first set of children ain't the real children, but it's the next set of children that is the real children, and so forth, because they're the ones who get away with things that I couldn't get away with, right? But you know, you all have hours on hours on hours of conversation. I used to come home, sneak home from work sometimes, and then I used to see Devon sitting to the table talking to you or the like. You're all having these long, deep conversations. And so we're gonna now, if I could find out where he disappeared to, at least I'd bring on Dominic at first, and if I could find where Dev disappeared to, then he can talk about Dev.
Dom is in New York, eh?
Yes.
Good.
Just like you, flying off to New York.
Oh, I see where Dev gone. Okay, boom. All right, Dev.
What's up?
How you doing, Devon and Dominic? Denzel is still to work, and he's trying to get off the court to get to join us. If he might be able to, he might not be able to. So he sends his apology if he's not able to. But Denzel is the one you see in the videos at the break, and that's Dillon's son. He's taller than Dillon, and he's probably smarter than Dillon too. But I could say off the screen, right? So, what do you say, Dave and Don?
I'm good, thanks.
All is well over here, man.
Yeah. So, what you got to say about your Grammy, your Gandhi, what names you all have for? Because
Gandhi, Gandi.
Tom, did you use Gandhi too?
Yes.
Okay. You're stage Friday.
Yeah, so I call it Gandhi.
Well, I don't remember when we started calling or how or why, but we do.
I remember it's by the gas house.
Right.
We used to call we was told that we shouldn't call it Gandhi. We should call it Grammy, and then we started to call it Grammy, but then
we have two Grammys. We have two Grammys, and that's confusing.
Yeah. So how has she been in your life? Tell me all of the things that I should have gotten that I didn't get that she gives to you. Tell us about that. Yeah.
Should the elders go first?
That's a setup.
Well, me and Grammy have conversations at least once a week, once every 2 weeks. The real deep conversations of what life really is. So she taught me a lot as far as history. So I don't make the same mistakes twice. How they say the history talks. So I got a lot of history from her. Just real life situations that might be going on with my life. I'm gonna say it in a way that she doesn't realize that it's me personally, but I'll get a take on it and then apply it to my life and then see where it goes. And 90% of the time she is right. So I'll take that guidance all the time.
Cool. What about you, Dom?
Well, I'm always amazed and appreciate your devotion to care and creating and sustaining and rebuilding, whether it was going off to Houston and caring or hosting all of the people from all over the world at the guest house, or rebuilding the communities through Girl Guides and sustaining that. And I always think it's so much effort and it takes a lot of devotion to maintain that whole world. So I'm always just learning how empathetic you are to everyone and to your community of people and family and friends, because it's a whole world in itself.
There you go. There you go. It looks like I've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of your conversation.
But also, you document that world through your writing about your experiences and then the history of how that family came about with the research with the Dillets. So it's a devotion that I find amazing.
Robin, your voice fading. And these are my two boys, by the way, people. So we have the Taliban, and then we have the Nomad on the right. Yeah. So Dev, you have these long conversations, and I know you haven't really said it to me, but I could tell from it that some of it you use in order to Gandhi's way of doing things to formulate what a wife should be to you, or your mate, your partner, or somebody you want to be compatible with. How I put you on the spot there, not to call no names now. I don't want to be looking for you, but how is her life been able to affect you in that manner in terms of forming what is the image of somebody you want to be with?
Well, it gives me clarity on what actually works. So everything that I see and Grammy did, or whatever we talked about, she showed me the things that she did that worked, and she showed me the things that didn't work. So that gives me it's like a cheat code. to the game. So I get to know, all right, if this sign start happening before, okay, I know not to continue. So it's just like a Grammy gives me a cheat code to life. That's the best way I can say how I use it.
Yeah. And Dom, you had a very extensive childhood around the animals and horses with your passion and the like, and I'm sure her support played a big role in you navigating through all of those things, because you're still very passionate with your animals.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so many different worlds, whether it's the horses or the dogs or the art. And, Gandhi had music, plus she had, people to take care of, and she had the Dalmatians and like Skunk and Buddy and all these other dogs. And then Popop's permanent art space came out of the guest house. So maintaining all of those worlds, and it's like a Venn diagram, and that takes a lot of work. But also I try to emulate how she maintained like the dogs, like Skunk and Buddy and even Jackie. They all lived forever with Gandhi, whereas they kind of went naturally, and that's really hard to do, to like allow to take care of your animal for like 15 plus years so that they would go naturally, rather than it being like a medical going to the vet, letting them go kind of way. So like Skunk just went out for a walk and then went to sleep. But it wasn't just in that one moment. It took all of Skunk's life and how Gandhi cared for Skunk for it to be organic in that way, I found. So I always try to emulate how she cares for everyone.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's powerful. I guess Denzel isn't going to be able to join us. And
I guess not.
And so forth. But hopefully he will before we able to close out. And so I don't know where your travel is going to take you next, Dom, because I know you in this art world. You like Chobans. You know who Chobans was? Chobans used to be in New York. That was Styles. Yeah.
Junior Styles, his name.
Junior Styles. Yeah, they used to be all over the place. So you continue to do well up there, and Dev is going to make big things happen, and Denzel has already started also. So we look forward to you all continuing the panel.
But the important thing is to continue to be be comfortable, as I put it, in your own skin. Okay? Whatever it is that you're reaching out to do, always know who you are and have respect for yourself and respect for others, and be comfortable in that. Can't tell you any more than that.
Appreciate it. We're gonna never forget that.
Yeah, she could tell you where she hide all the money. But
spent it on all of y'all.
Yeah, there you go. That's 90% of the battle right there.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
So thank you kindly. And Val just popped up on the screen, and she's in Canada, and so is Gina. Val, baby doll. She says, she's an exceptional woman. That's your good friend from Chippingham. I tell you, all the only pretty woman in Chippingham. You see that picture?
My bestest friend and cousin, she calls me.
Mm-hmm. And then that's her daughter, Daniel friend, Gina. Okay. Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, Dev and Dom, thank you all for joining us and today. And we look forward when you all will be featured at some point in time in the show.
There you go.
I don't know how the day gets along, but we'll see.
And happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Thank you, Dom.
Already.
Dev was here helping me set up things.
Yeah. All right. So we have some more Facebook to-dos and YouTube to-dos coming through. So Rosemary Hannah said, thanks, great show, wonderful tribute to a loving mother. That's
Thank
the
you.
lady who don't know who takes 1,000,001 pictures and puts them on Facebook, and that's a story into itself in terms of she should be honored in a big way also for her service in her own way. Another one of the MRS. Yes. Anything you want to say about Unreader?
Another one of our MRS women who helped to bring you guys up, and a very dear friend to this day. And Marion, my great cousin. Thanks, Marion.
Any more? Yeah, go through them all.
Happy. Oh.
Go ahead. You go ahead, Mommy.
You know, I wanted, before we close out, I want to give a shout out to people, because I'm the only association, well, other than the MRS, the only association that I'm still involved in is the Girl Guides organization. And I'm trying to prepare a database of all of the former guides. So anybody who's listening, if you were a former guide, please get in touch with me and let me know so that we can put your information into the database. And, you know, and of course, I have to talk about our new building. That's only a shell, and we need more money to finish it. So, you know, this is an appeal to the general public to please help us to finish our building so that our Girl Guides, from the Sunflowers to the Ranger Guides, could have a home where they could come and be empowered. Thank you, everybody. Look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. And that's a Girl Guide for you right there. Wow.
There, Michelle,
my guide leader.
Brownie Guide. I was Brown Owl when I started Holy Cross Brownies. Michelle was one.
Right. Okay. Well, IDK, Mom, well, Miss Gary is a part of the Girl Guides also.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. It's been real honor. People want texting me to ask me what I'm going to say about you, but they have to wait for the book, because I mean that could be another 2 hours if I just start talking about you, myself. I had to give my siblings who don't have an opportunity to say something. I could speak to you every day, but it's a pleasure and a privilege to have been able to be here to honor you in such a way. I know you very low-key person, don't really push your name all over the place to say these things that you do and the like. If you could do everything without anybody even knowing, that would be your cherished view. Somehow that rubbed off on me to the point where I struggle sometimes to promote myself. Now that I'm on my own, I need to do that. But, you know, I didn't get that gift that my sister got from my dad. But but it's been a pleasure. And before I start to find a hanky and stuff like that, I'm glad that you are still with us at 83 plus years of age, 82, somewhere around there.
I'll be 83 at Christmas.
At Christmas, yes, the Christmas baby. So, well, that's a story by itself too. So, and that's another hour, and so forth. And you're always welcome to come back if it's an issue you want to, or topic, Girl Guides, or whoever you want to bring on, talk on, bring some of the young people that say what they have to say, and whoever else, even the MRS, they could come on and talk about how they could help the young girls and ladies get through the struggle that they're in now. So, you know, you supported me in such a huge way. Houston, MD Anderson, that is a book. Matter of fact, I am working on a contract that would be a movie. So we shall see. Okay, right. It'll be an animated movie.
Probably that sent me back to school. I had to take classes when I was in Houston.
Yeah, you and Dillon alike. Yeah. But the thing about us, he is one who, you two of y'all never got nothing below A's. But I heard from the nurse y'all almost failed the class because y'all was too nervous. You were scared of the you're gonna do wrong. But y'all can't do wrong. Y'all the cornerstones of our lives.
Well, thank you, Happy, for having me on your show. I was really surprised when you invited me. And then after you explained that it was Mother's Day, and you thought to have me, I thought, well, okay, that's a good reason to have me on the show.
Well, I knew that's the only way you were going to come. So if you can, if there's anything you want to say to the general public out there from Dubai, people in Dubai who are listening in all the way across the equator down to Chiquita Town in South America. Anything you want to share to help the youth or whoever?
Well, before I'll share with them that, it's important for you, like I said before, to be comfortable in your own skin and to appreciate that you could do whatever it is that you put your mind to do. All right? Nothing is too hard. It may be difficult for you, but when you put your mind, apply yourself to it, you'll get it done. You find a way to get it done. And that's all that I could share with you. Mm-hmm. You just have to be comfortable in your own skin and appreciate that whatever it is that your insides tell you that you want to do or that you have to do. Because my life has been an example of having to do what I had to do to be able to survive and to help my children to be able to survive.
And you did it the honorable way.
And do it the honorable way, exactly. And to my children, I want to say that I'm really proud of all of you and my grandchildren. I gave birth to you, but there wasn't a handbook. And that was why we formed the MRS Club, because we didn't have a manual. All I knew was that I loved you long before you came into the world, and whatever mistakes that I have made in raising you, it was all done in love. Everything was done in love. Thank you for being my children. Thank you for giving me grandchildren. And thank you, Happy, for having me on your show.
You're quite welcome, and we appreciate you very much for all of the good things that you've done, including what you call mistakes. All of those make us better, like when I fell on the coconut tree. So as we take our leave now, we'd like to thank everybody who's stuck around and listened to this wonderful lady to hear what she has to say and how it could be. We hope it's of value to you and that you found a way that you can use some of the nuggets that she shared to help you in improving your life and the life of your families and communities. We always say, I always reference Josh McDowell, Pastor Josh McDowell, who always speaks of relationships being the key that is going to cause us to go forward. If we don't have the relationships and build relationships with each other, then we have trouble and strife and so forward. And so we ask you to pause, think about it with intentional thought, and consider where we go from here. You've been listening to Dale Happy Knowles with something to think about. And we wish that today you have a lot to think about. And if you do, be sure to drop a note on the page and share this link. Let it be an educational tool to all your friends and share it with some teachers, and maybe they'll show it to their children and the students in school and moving forward. Thank you, Mom. IDK. Look forward to grub and everything else that comes along with being in the same space as you. Enjoy your evening. And I'm sure Daniel and Dillon, Daniel and Dale will bombard you in a second.
Okay.
Good evening, all.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Join Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles as a friend and sponsor. Contact us at something2think242@gmail.com or WhatsApp us at 242-424-0257.